meeting. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, there would be like 30 seconds. I look back at it and you were saying that it was all recording. Just a heads up.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. I think that it might have had something to do with, we were kind of maxing out the bandwidth at the at Township Hall, possibly, but we'll look into it.
Yeah, it really was a non-issue. It's just kind of a calibration thing. I thought you might want to do it.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, what is that?
Does somebody have their speakerphone on their cell phone? That happens. Turn that off.
I just muted Rosser 06 iPhone and that noise seemed to go away, just FYI.
He may have his speakerphone on, which I think messes everything up if you use your speakerphone.
All right, Rosser 06 iPhone, be aware.
Carrie, I didn't hear him come down home. I'm walking away. We're all getting. Why aren't we leaving on Sunday? I don't know. Why'd we do that? Was it booked or something? I don't know. We're leaving early on Monday. I'll be a repick. There must have been some reasoning behind that. She cashed my check, finally. I didn't think she's ever gonna cash my check. She told me she got all of them. I told her we had you totally confused. It don't take much. She said, well, you're only staying 3 nights and 1 night. And
Alan, what's going on with you, man? You look like I've been swimming in the pool all day and I'm looking at you through like a hazy deal.
I don't know what's wrong with the lens here.
There you go.
where is he?
Do I look better? Well, I'm trying to make it look like really like 1940s kind of sexy look, but it's not working.
There he is.
Yeah. You got the 1940s part correct, Alan.
I like the picture in the back.
At least my hair doesn't need to be braided this time. It's actually been cut by a professional.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it, but
Got that distinguished look going around the temples there, you know?
that's a nice way of saying it's getting grayer every day.
I was trying to be nice, Alan, in the beard. You got this scruffy look going on.
I've had that going on for a little while.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, I
really
know.
bad the other day.
During that
It's
time,
better though.
all you guys with hair was envying people like me, weren't you?
Uh-huh.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and call to order.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Ms. Batchelor, here.
All right, let's get the flag up for the pledge.
Yes.
All right, Alan, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Shall we rise, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were
Thank you.
ahead of you, Alan, sorry.
Well, it's kind of weird. It's like you hear it in your head, you know, it's kind of odd doing it this way. Someday we'll actually be in the same room again.
That's true. Hopefully sometime soon. All right, so regular meeting minutes approval, Debbie?
I request a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from May 13th and the special meeting minutes from June 4th.
So moved.
Second.
Call.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor? Yes. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and hop into, next we have public presentation for Jane Dunnigan. Is Jane on the line here?
So Trustee Kelly, there's one dial in, and it's not the number that I was expecting, but it may be Miss Dunnigan.
Let's unmute it and see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Jane, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
All right, so Jane, we're at the public presentation part. That's you. I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and let you kind of say whatever you want to say. We kind of asked for a kind of a 15-minute deal here, but whatever, however you want to explain the history, what's going on, whatever information you want to convey here at the meeting, go ahead, and then we'll let Eddie or add anything they want to, and then trustees will have some discussion.
Okay. Do the trustees have copies of what I'm going to say and an email copy that has some photographs in it?
Yes, I have.
In the packet, great, because that should help, because there's a lot of detail in what I'm going to say. And it's because of the township's monthly meeting agendas, time restraints. I'm going to try to respect that. And we're going to be talking today about two separate but connected problems. Problem one is a descriptive timeline for what was initially in the spring of 2017, 38 months ago, our single focused question request for help from Pierce Township. And as of the fall 2017, problem one is now directly connected to problem two. The details of problem one, our initial single request for help from Pierce Township was in the spring of 2017, and now that's 38 months ago. And it was regarding a potential Pierce Township roadway safety hazard. During that the initial phone calls to Pierce Township, we asked if it would be possible to have a single area of growing, pooling, and standing stormwater on the Eagles Landing roadway in front of our home, evaluated by a stormwater professional as a possible public safety hazard, and if a safety risk was identified, gain from the expert the details for possible solution options, plus the names.
Jane,
Would
it be helpful if we went ahead and threw up your email so we can all see it on the screen here?
Well, you can't. I'm in a phone call in. I was hoping you all were given that this morning or this afternoon, so you can follow it.
I'm familiar, and I've looked at it, but just thought it might be helpful. Eddie, why don't you throw that up while Jane's talking? Go ahead, Jane. Sorry.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, of a safety risk was identified, and gained from the expert the details for possible solutions options, plus the names of and recommendations for experienced contractors and companies who could do the work to correct and end the problems. The request involved, frankly, yes and no questions. We asked that we be included in discussions regarding the planning through the solution processes, and this was another yes or no question. What was happening causing our single request for help during our initial calls to the Pierce Township in the spring of 17, and these were our specific single requests, what we had been observing for at least 4 years. It was a single semicircle of Eagles Landing roadway runoff pooling stormwater coming from both directions of the roadway, and in the winter months from the snows melting on the roadway. The semicircle was growing larger and larger each year. And in the winter of 2016 and 17, the semicircle's straight, flat side was against the township's grassy easement and in front of the property in our home. And it was approximately at that time 15 feet long against the township's grassy easement, with the rounded side extending to the center of the roadway. The semicircle became a sheet of ice when it froze. And there, just to note, there are no curbs and sidewalks, et cetera, in our legendary trails section of the legendary Run development. Our goal involved having the above described situation evaluated by a recognized stormwater professional as a potential public safety hazard. Our specific single request was initially made to a woman answering the published on the Pierce Township Administration website phone number. She referred us to John Kohler, who she said was the head of the township's maintenance department, and she gave us his direct Pierce Township phone number. We phoned John Kohler immediately and shared our single request with him during the call. Within a short amount of time after our initial call to him, John Kohler met with us on site in front of our home. During his walk along the Eagles Landing roadway with us, one of John's many comments to us was that he agreed with us about needing an outside evaluation of the problem because he did not know how to fix it. John explained we would be on or near the bottom of his work list as he had many additional responsibilities resulting from the considerable damages caused by the tornado that had come through Pierce Township earlier in the year. John said he was too busy to do anything until late 2017, but he stated he would get back with us to discuss the situation further, and we would be involved in the next steps planning process. John reinforced the same next steps process content, including that we would be involved in the next steps planning process during our follow-up call with John a few months later, inquiring where we were on the list. Problem 2, what actually happened to problem 1 and how our initial phone call to report and ask for help from Pierce Township regarding or concerning a potential roadway public safety risk, which was problem 1, has expanded to now both a continually growing and expanding in scope of problem 1 that has created and is causing the continually growing spread of damages involved in what has combined into a combination of problems 1 and 2. Neither John Kohler or anyone else from Pierce Township followed up with us to include us in any of the next steps process discussions toward having a stormwater expert evaluate what could be a potential stormwater roadway hazard problem before any of the work-related solutions to go forward were decided on, or even after the work was completed by Pierce Township employees. We came home one fall afternoon on or about November the 2nd, 2017, and we discovered a driver sitting on a backhoe moving along on a large part of what was once the township's total easement of sod grass in front of our house. All of the sod and topsoil had been completely removed from a large portion of the township's sod grass easement area. There had been obvious, visible excavation and grading changes completed there. The area was lower and slanted more toward and into our property's connecting front lawn in this changed section of the township easement. The backhoe driver told us that John Kohler instructed him to do the work. The driver said he would plant grass seed and not replace the topsoil or sod, and then he would put netting over the seeds, which he did. The easement area now involved stays wet with small pockets of water and bare soil for long periods of time after it rains, resulting in only multiple small sections of the grass is actually consistently growing from the multiple kinds of grass seeds planted during the township's November 17th seeding, and that's 31 months ago. We have asked several times, but have not been told who was involved in the specific planning discussions in the solution processes, who decided not to include us, and who gave the required Pierce Township approvals, the official permissions for the excavation and regrading work on the township's easement in front of our home by Pierce Township employees. The excavation and regrading work that was completed on the Pierce Township easement by Pierce Township employees in the fall of 2017 did not solve the problem, the potential road safety hazard problem we initially reported as problem 1. However, the Pierce Township employees' work did change the pattern of the roadway stormwater runoff drainage along the roadway, and now the stormwater runoff and pooling is continually growing and expanding, an expanding version of problem 1. The original shape of the pooled roadway has changed from the single growing semicircle to now a long rectangular shape, a 60-foot plus to 90-foot long rectangle shape with one long side against the easement and the other long side that extends along the center of the roadway. The side that's on the center of the roadway is sometimes straight, and then it's sometimes the best way to describe it is irregularly straight. Now the roadway stormwater runoff drainage and pooling flows along the roadway from both directions of the roadway, and the stormwater is both ponding in the multiple places and in running in multiple streams as it flows across the township's grassy easement into our property, causing increasingly more and more damages to both the township's easement and the front lawn of our personal property. And that's problem 2. In the spring of 2018, which is 28 or 26 months ago, we phoned John Kohler to advise him that the excavating and the regrading work completed by Pierce Township Maintenance Department employees in the fall of 2017 was unsuccessful in stopping what was our initial report and request concerning a possible roadway safety risk from wanting and pooling water on the Eagles Landing roadway. We described how the township completed excavation and regrading work was continually creating more serious roadway stormwater pooling and draining problems in and to the roadway itself, which is problem 1, and is causing growing damages to the township's grassy easement in front of our property and to our personal front lawn property, including our personal catch basin and the area around it, problem 2. And this is important to note, our catch basin. It is a catch basin that we paid for as part of the construction of our home. It was specifically installed on our property at the time our house was built, and our house sits on top of a hill, to service the rainwater drainage from our personal front lawn, our landscape and our hardscape property areas, and our driveway only, not for the collection of any or all of the stormwater from Eagles Landing roadway, stormwater runoff and drainage from one or both directions of the Eagles Landing roadway. We then called Loretta Roque, who had become the Pierce Township administrator in summer 2017. We explained both problems 1 and 2 to her and asked Loretta for help in her role as the Pierce Township administrator to have problems 1 and 2 correctly solved and correctly resolved by Pierce Township. Loretta has been our main Pierce Township contact during those 31 months. We've actively been working with Pierce Township toward correcting and solving and resolving both problems, 1 for approximately 38 months and problem 2 for approximately 26 months. And examples of that, there have been dozens of conversations, written emails, communications in 2016, 19, and 20, a number of planned scheduled meetings and many face-to-face short conversations at the Pierce Township Administration Building with Loretta Roque. So lots of work with Loretta Roque. Multiple email communications since a meeting in late October 2019 in the township with both Trustee Kelly and Loretta Roque. One of the communications involves one of our 3 goals we will be sharing with you tonight. And it's a May 21st, 2020 proposal to evaluate both problems 1 and 2 by a professional civil engineer with decades of professional engineering experiences solving stormwater-related issues. We've had on-site meetings in front of our Eagles Landing property with Loretta Roque, 3 meetings after the work was done, and those meetings were in 2018 and 19. We've had 2 meetings with John Kohler, who's director of the township's maintenance. One of them was obviously in September of 17 in front of our home. That was before the work on the easement was completed. And then there was another one with trustee Nick Kelly, and that was in front of our home, and that was after the work was done. And then we've had meetings with Nick Kelly, and that was the meeting with John Kohler. Anyway, we've made multiple trips to the Claremont County Engineer's Office in Batavia to get copies of official engineering drawings related to our personal property in Eagles Landing since we bought the house, and actually before we bought the house. In 2018, we had meetings with several Greater Cincinnati Regional Landscape Stormwater Damage Repair and Control Situation Company representatives on the roadway easement in front of our home to learn what can be done to correct the Eagles Landing stormwater problems in front of our home and secure their individual company estimates for their work. We then share the information we learn with Loretta Roque. And this is just an aside note, the Legendary Run HOA and the town properties contact for Legendary Trails both gave us the company names and contact information for the specific companies. In the summer of 2018, we phoned the Piercetown Administration Office phone number to ask how we could talk or meet with either or both of the 2 current trustees who were in office in late 17 toward solving the stormwater problems. We were directed to the township website and told we could only initiate communication with them individually through their respective Pierce Township emails, and as a group of the 3 trustees through the requesting to be on the agenda as a speaker in an official Pierce Township Board of Trustees open to the community meeting. We then sent separate emails to both Bonnie Batchelor's and Alan Freeman's individual township emails requesting an opportunity to talk with them individually. Trustee Nick Kelly has met with us and has been working with us. In 2019, there were 2 professional evaluations of both problems 1 and 2 by 2 licensed professional civil engineers. The township hired one of the engineers. We hired the second engineer, who is Matt Naylor, who has his own business with decades of stormwater professional engineering experience. And this is an aside, the trustee Kelly, Loretta Roque, and the Dunigans have copies of both of the individual engineering reports. After receiving his report from our engineer, Loretta Roque and John Kohler met with Matt Naylor, who was our engineer, to discuss possible solutions. And then moving on to February 2020, the Dunigans, met on site with 5 highly recommended individual owners of companies or representatives for that company, that have experience and proven capacities to successfully do the needed corrective work. Each of the company representatives stated that his company needs to work from plans from a qualified stormwater engineer. We shared their names, their company names, and their contact information with both Loretta Roque and Trustee Kelly through emails. In May 20th, 2020, we met with Ron Roberts, a professional engineer who has his own business with decades of stormwater engineering experience, who can provide us with the critical needed information through the results of his evaluations, findings, and fact-based solutions. Information concerning the needed work to be completed that will allow us to move forward now and correct both problems 1 and 2. On May 21st, same day, Mr. Roberts, well, right after that, on May 21st, 2020, Mr. Roberts sent us his proposal, which we forward immediately to both Trustee Kelly and Loretta Roque toward moving forward toward getting the Board of Trustees approval and signatures on Ron Roberts' proposal. And we have 3 goals tonight. Our first goal, we're publicly requesting for help and action from the Board of Trustees during this June 2020 Pierce Township Board of Trustees meeting to make the decisions to put up for motion or the motions needed to proceed now to solve both and correct problems 1 and 2. So that would be the official commitment from the Pierce Township Board of Trustees to move forward immediately now to correctly solve and correctly resolve 2 related complex problems: the ongoing and continually growing stormwater damage and pooling problems in the townships, in the Eagles Townships roadway after to the township employees' excavation and regrading work on the easement, and the resulting damages from the excavation and regrading to the township's easement, the township easement's grassy area in front of our home, and the resulting damages that both are causing to our property. The second goal, moving forward now, to secure the Pierce Township trustees' signatures on Ron Roberts' engineering proposal dated May 21st, 2020. The Dunnigans will sign the proposal. Mr. Roberts' findings will give us qualified stormwater-related engineering expert answers to the multiple critical questions, such as what specific needs to be done, why the specific work needs to be done, where the specific work needs to be done, how the specific work needs to be done, and suggestions for who can best do the needed specific work successfully. Both Pierce Township trustees, Nick Kelly and Loretta, and then Loretta Roque, Township Administrator, were also emailed copies of Ron Roberts' proposal on May 21st, 2020. On May 21st, 2020, Nick Kelly's response to us was, I believe this will need to be brought before the board. I've copied Loretta in and will let her respond and coordinate as needed. Thank you, Nick. And then it was signed Nick. The third goal is to hire the best that would be who would make the corrections ASAP, to do all of the corrective work needed successfully based on bids and focusing on data regarding the company candidates, experience credentials, and work reputation and outcome success histories, and of course the costs, and agreed upon by both Pierce Township Board of Trustees and the Dunnigans. And in addition, it's been our understanding from their answers to our questions and conversations with both Nick Kelly and Loretta Roque, and by emails from them recently, that through following Pierce Township trustees' internal and external communications policies, they've been communicating with Pierce Township's trustees Bonnie Batchelor and Alan Freeman to allow the 2 trustees to be updated about both of the specific 2 problems we are addressing, including our efforts towards solving and correcting both of them during 2018-19 and 2020 to date. John and I are requesting that the following 3 communications with the Pierce Township Board of Trustees and Loretta Roque be included in this June 2020 meeting, including in their individual entirety in the official Pierce Township Board of Trustees meeting. So anyway, what that would be involving is communications revolving and surrounding the continually growing and expanding connected complex problems 1 and 2 from the Eagles Landing Pierce Township roadway, stormwater runoff, pooling, and the damage in the excavation regrading work that was all from that work that was performed by the Pierce Township employees. And we sent emails, and I hope the 3 trustees got it separately. There are 2 emails rather separately to the 3 trustees, and we sent them individually through their Pierce Township emails. And so hopefully those arrived. We sent those on June the 3rd of this year. And then the other thing that we sent them was it was like a pictorial outline of what actually everything looks like from, I know the initial one was from 2004, and the last one is probably, it was, I believe, in late May or June of this year, 2020. And then plus this brief overview descriptive timeline that we're presenting tonight via phone during the June 10th, 2020 Pierce Township Board of Trustees meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, so I appreciate you kind of breaking that out into kind of a couple separate parts on that as far as our helps out, I think, with our thought process. We have the issue of the water on the road, and then the issue with
Correct.
off the road. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over quickly to Tom, because I think it's important, Tom, that you weigh in on the water off the road part.
Okay. Just a few thoughts concerning stormwater law. It's a very confusing area of law. It's got many components, but among the many things that Ms. Dunnigan said, the issue that's primarily Pierce's issue is the question of the pooling on the roadway. That the township has a fairly heavy duty under the Ohio law to maintain roads safely. And if the decision by Pierce that they made in 2017 to make the road safer caused some additional water runoff onto the Dunnigan property, then we would generally not be responsible for that. The issue that Ms. Dunnigan raised, though, is that she says that the water pooling is worse now. So that certainly,
Correct.
yeah, that certainly opens the door for us to do whatever research we can do into the fact of whether the water pooling is worse now than it used to be, because that would indicate that what we did not only didn't work, but worked in opposite of what it was intended. So that's something that we certainly can and probably should check out. The next comment that she mentioned was that it's her catch basin, hers and her husband's catch basin, to receive only their water. Now that statement may or may not be true from the standpoint of the township, because when the subdivision was built, there had to have been some stormwater plan to allow the subdivision to exist properly and to allow roads to exist. And obviously the roads are supposed to drain off of the road so they're safe. So somehow water on the road should have been flowing onto the Dunnigan property. And what I've been told.
Mr. Keating, may I interrupt you for a second? Okay,
no,
let
please,
me interrupt you.
Jane,
Okay,
please don't. Yeah, let me just.
okay,
we gotta operate. Hold on, let me pop in. Tom, we gotta operate this.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, you have to wait your turn. We'll have another opportunity for your. What we're gonna do is we're gonna let Tom continue on with his dissertation, and then the trustees are gonna have a little discussion here, and then we'll pop you back in if you want to be popped back.
Okay.
Yeah. What you're going to find is this is the first time I've heard Mrs. Dunnigan speak, and the first time I've heard her issues. But I've heard other people, specifically Loretta and John, mention some things that they think happened. So one of the things that they thought happened is that the plan of the subdivision was slightly changed when the Dunnigan home was constructed, and instead of the typical drain or ditch along the side of the road, it was a very gradual drain, and that very gradual drain led down to the low point, which is the catch basin that they constructed. Without that catch basin, the plan, again, I'll say apparently provided for a culvert to go underneath the road. And so obviously in that case, the property would have accepted some stormwater runoff from the road because it's got to flow somewhere and it flows down to the property adjoining. And so the easement that she's referred to would have been a very gradual sloping easement, but it would have eventually gone down to the what would have been a culvert running underneath the road. So yeah, their catch basin is theirs, but it's to catch all of the water. And I've also been told that there's an easement recorded that says they have to accept the water from the property above them. So that means that catch basin that they chose is for whatever purposes they wanted it, but it's not something that we gave them permission to build, and it's not something that we have a duty to maintain. As she said, it's theirs. So there's an issue, I think, an issue as to whether she has to accept or they have to accept the roadway runoff. I don't think that's necessarily a conclusion that they don't have to accept roadway runoff from the street. So I think the primary problem is the street. That's our issue. We have a heavy duty to maintain it safely. And if the drainage to the to the edge of their property is something that has been dramatically increased, again, it's normally the abutting property owner's duty to accept the water from the public street because the public street is rather critical. The other issue, I guess, is that generally local governments are not responsible when they have maintained a storm sewer, unless they've maintained it negligently. And I don't know of any facts here that would say that we have been maintaining the storm sewer, the drainage issue here, because that's on their private property. And what we did was to increase the safety of the roadway. So if we negligently maintained the public stormwater system, then yeah, we may have some possible liability. But if we just designed, or let me say it this way, we did not design anything on their property. We designed nothing. And all we did was act to maintain the safety of the roadway. So if that's all we did, again, we're not going to be legally responsible. When a discretionary decision is made by an official, such as John Kohler, who's head of the Public Works Service Department, if there's a discretionary decision that's made, and by the way, he's acting on behalf of the township, he's not acting individually, but if there's a discretionary decision, that usually means that it's going to involve immunity, that the township's not going to be legally responsible, primarily because of the fact that when a public official has to weigh different choices and alternatives and has to act for the best interest of the public, the government is going to be immune from liability. So the way the immunity statute works, I'll give you a very, very quick summary of that. It might be boring to some, but there's lots and lots of case law under it. You start off with the assumption that local governments, townships, villages, cities, counties, are immune from liability. They can be responsible if they participate in what's called a proprietary function, and a proprietary function would include the maintenance of a sewer system, like a sanitary sewer or a stormwater sewer. So if they negligently maintain it, they could face liability. But even then, it has to be based on negligence. So the person who claims they're harmed has to prove that there was some duty owed to them, and that duty was violated, and that violation of that duty is what caused them damage. And then they'd have to prove what their damage is. So those are the steps that you take when there is a negligent maintenance. But when there's the exercise of reasonable judgment in trying to make a decision for what's best for the roadway, that brings back the immunity defense for a local community. So the key to there is making a judgment to using all of the resources and the equipment and materials of the township to try to make a decision that would benefit the public good. And if it causes slight harm to a adjoining property owner, usually the government's not responsible. Now, saying all that, number one, I do think it's clear that we should check out the pooling on the road. Number two,
Uh-oh. He's on mute.
am I muted? Am I?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
all right.
were, Tom.
Well, sorry, but I didn't touch anything. maybe the system muted me. We should.
The system.
That's the abuse lawyers take. We should mention this issue, since Ms. Dunnigan's comments do represent a claim that we did something wrong. We should mention it to our insurance company, and they should open a file, and they should get involved, because it is in the nature of a claim that she's making. And then number three, there's nothing at all wrong with trying to work together mutually to find a solution, because even though I'm saying that the township can claim that it's immune, that doesn't mean we don't, it doesn't mean that we're not acting properly if we try to join in and reach a mutually satisfactory solution. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Tom. Alan, Bonnie.
So Tom, couple of questions. Well, I don't know if it's questions. We do have a responsibility for the pooling on the road. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so.
And it sounds like what you're saying is that we do have a responsibility to see what the solution might be on that in that area.
Yes.
Of getting the roadway clear of the water.
Yes.
So it sounds, so am I correct in saying that you think that it would be a good idea for us to bring in the engineer and take a look at it and sketch out the solutions so we know what the responsibilities are? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I wasn't trying to say that, no, because as Ms. Dunnigan said, there are many, many engineers, and it sounds like she's talked to several. I know that the township has talked to someone, and again, at some point, Loretta can weigh in on this better than I. But when I read the proposal of Ms. Dunnigan's engineer, I thought that whoever this person is has to have it clear that if we're participating, they're going to have to work jointly for the Dunnigans and for us. And that wasn't very clear in his written proposal. It made it look like he was almost like testifying as a witness. That was the flavor of what I saw when I was reading that proposal. So if we're going to hire an engineer, we need to make sure the person owes a duty to us and that they commit that they will never under any circumstance testify against us or against the Dunnigans. It has to be a true independent engineer. There's nothing wrong with hiring an engineer, no.
Right. Now moving to Loretta, I noticed in Ms. Dunnigan's statement that engineers have been on the site, and including one from us. Can you address that, please?
Yes, well, early on, when I was first involved in reviewing what had happened, I had contacted our engineer with Kleingers, that was Wyatt McDermott at that time, to look at the circumstances, which were really focused on the lack of the vegetation growing well, the lack of the seed taking hold, and the claim that we had not used an engineer when we had done the work, and that it was not satisfactory in terms of the solution that was done there to get the water off of the road. So that was October 29th of 2018, and I provided a written letter with their report attached to the Dunnigans at that time. We basically identified that we would continue to monitor the situation, that things that could be done off-site would be for her to investigate further. And we offered to add some more seating, and she was not interested in having any more seating done at that time.
Well, my focus is not on her property. It is on the roadway, because that's our distinct responsibility. And finding the solution to that, I think, is the important part. Sorry, Tom.
No,
Tom,
no,
the physical hand raise is no good. Where's your virtual hand?
I don't have a virtual hand, but
He'll mute
know-
himself. If you ask him to do that, he'll mute himself. We'll never hear him again.
Well, and who will complain?
Really, no one, no one.
I know, I hear you. Now, the comment I was going to make about the photographs is that I think it's very good that Ms. Dunnigan provided photographs. She provided one from March of 2017 when the roadway is dry, except for the ponding. But the one from 2019 is very clearly done when the roadway is soaking wet and makes you feel like this was taken in the middle of a torrential rain. So I don't think that picture conveys anything at all. You need a picture that where the roadway is dry, except for the area that's ponding, in order to see what the problem is. So it's pictures are good, but you know, if it's taken during a rainstorm, it doesn't really tell you much.
Tom, I'll add to that, the one from 2019, when it does look like it is a storm going on.
Yeah.
There are many roads in the township that will have water like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the different subdivisions and everything.
Yeah.
I would like to ask John Kohler if I could. John, have you noticed an increase in the pooling since you did the work in the last couple of years?
To me, there's been a decrease as far as along the edges while it's raining. Yes, there is ponding on the edges, like maybe about a foot in from the edge. But from what I've seen, when I've gone and looked at it, that's all that I see. I don't see it protruding out, halfway across the road anymore.
Well, I will add, I rode up there one time when it was raining, right after a rainstorm, and I saw what you did. There was very little water standing on the berm of the road. So I just wanted to ask you if you had seen more.
No, I have not.
Well, again, let me jump in here. That's one of the issues that Ms. Dunnigan is raising. She's saying that what the township did caused dramatic increase of runoff onto her property, yet it didn't decrease the ponding on the public road. So that's a I guess you'd say a statement that I think needs to be investigated so that everybody is talking about the same facts, because that's the biggest problem in stormwater cases, is that everybody has a different perception of what happened. And I think the facts of whether the road is ponding worse or better is a very important issue.
I agree, Tom. I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention, you guys can see the aerial shot. As you come down Eagles Landing, Miss Dunnigan's driveway and the scenario and issue is going to be on your left as you come down. So from the picture you're viewing, if you come in from the right, that's Miss Dunnigan's driveway on the left, and you would continue on. I believe there are 3 other houses past Miss Dunnigan. So the pooling you're seeing, Miss Dunnigan wouldn't essentially experience with her vehicle. She would turn into the driveway. But there's 3 other houses back there with residents that would experience said pooling. Loretta, did you reach out to them? I believe you reached out to them and got some feedback on what their perception of this issue is.
I did that based upon your recommendation, and I was able to reach a representative from each one of those households and ask them if they had experienced the ponding problems before and what their experience was since the changes had been made. And some of them didn't really have much problem with it before, but felt that there had been an improvement.
So the folks that drive it consistently, I mean, I guess generally feel like it was an improvement, or I guess a non-issue. I mean, did any of them bring up any concerns about it?
No, they didn't.
All right. Well, so I think with a twofold issue like this, it's important that, I mean, from my perspective as a trustee, that I really consider the public safety and how this is impacting folks from that perspective of who drives on the road. And again, we're kind of splitting this into 2 issues. We have a what's being referred to as a private catch basin and water being sent there. And then we have the issue of water on the road. And I think we've all kind of settled on the fact that the water on the road, from our perspective, as a township, is our biggest concern. So really identifying what kind of issue that is, and talking to the people that drive by it every day, the 3 homes, I think 3 homes that are back there, I think is really important. Do I have any other questions, comments from my colleagues?
Nick, could I
None at this
ask
time.
someone from the township after the next storm? I don't know. I think they're kind of wrong on what they predicted for today. But the next storm, if we could, someone from the township get a picture of any water standing on the road, so we have a better idea after, you know, it's had the chance to pool there, how much is actually there on the road. John, could you, or Loretta, could you have Eddie or someone?
I can go down there after it rains, after we get a decent rain. I can go down there and take pictures. That's not a problem.
I'm sure that Eddie or I can. We definitely need to note the date that it occurs and what kind of rainfall we had.
Exactly. That to me would be very interesting to see, you know, what are we seeing now?
If I can add something to it, from what I was explained to by John McManus of the Clermont County Stormwater, when we already had a culvert pipe running under the road right there, where that catch basin, close to where that catch basin is at, they cut off our access to our culvert pipe when they installed that catch basin.
No.
So from what he is explaining to me is if they cut off our access, they have to then accept our water. Because the culvert pipe that's running under the road is our culvert pipe that they connected on and moved back further into their property.
John, let me ask you a question. Are you saying there was a culvert pipe under the road before the Dunnigan home was constructed?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
All right, well, my 2 cents for what it's worth is, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but we spent a lot of time, our township resources, Loretta's, John's, mine, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to spend time and effort and go to meetings and look into this. I'm happy to do that. But it's been taking a lot of township resources to deal with this thing. And if we're looking at what kind of water is ponding on the street and what kind of safety hazard that comes with that in regards to what's ponding on the street, and we have all 3 residential homes that are back there that none of them are saying it's an issue. None of them are saying it's a problem. From a ponding on the road standpoint, I just wonder if we can't somehow come to some kind of conclusion here, because the continual back and forth, and whatever that conclusion might be, but the continual back and forth and the continual volleying of information and review of information for an issue of some water ponding on the road, to me, I'm sorry, it's just getting a little excessive. And this is taxpayer money. Loretta, we pay Loretta, we pay John. You know, I'm happy to spend the time, and my hours don't matter. You're not paying me by the hour, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
Nick, I believe Ms. Dunnigan has her hand up.
Oh,
May I speak now?
yes.
Okay, the culvert pipe that was just referred to has nothing to do with the roadway. It is a pipe coming from, if you face our house, from behind our house and between the property uphill from us as you come into Eagles Landing. It goes alongside of our house in a creek that's there, and it goes under the street. And that is the culvert pipe. It has nothing to do with water flow on the roadway. That's one comment. The other one is the runoff. It depends on how long it rains and what's there, how long it stays. The initial problem that we called to ask, the only question was to ask if somebody could evaluate it as a potential. That was our initial question. And nobody answered as yes or no. In fact, nobody still has answered as yes or no if that could be done. So all this work was done, and nobody ever answered our question: is can the township have a professional look to see if there's a problem? That was our question. Everything flowed from that. Everything flowed from that. So all the work was done, all that was done. Nobody talked to us about what the work was done. Our question was, could somebody evaluate it? That's the first thing. The second thing is, not all along, in most places from the roadway, and that would be Locust Corner down Legendary Trails to where we live, there are properties with multiple catch basins in the township's easement. And there are 4 properties that have property lines on Eagles Landing that have catch basins. The catch basins, for some reason, stopped. There's one in the house next to us, that's closer to the Locust Corner roadway. And there's multiple catch basins in the house across the street from us. They just stopped. And what's so odd is they stopped on a hill where the water could run, but at the lowest point where our house was, they weren't there. In my conversations, in my research, that I don't know why they didn't put catch basins for the rest of the roadway. And the neighbors, our neighbors, toward the cul-de-sac, that roadway runs, and water will run on that road toward our property. So we would have more pooling water than they would, because their roadway, I know in one place, I think at the dead end, it starts to go down again, but through most of the property right next to us, it's like a gradual hill. But the most important thing that I heard that's not correct is that culvert that was involved with our driveway, that has zero to do with the water coming down the street and everything to do with the easement. And it's an easement. I forget what kind of easement it is, but the easement that is perpendicular to the street, not along the street. So that information was incorrect. As far as what all happened to put the catch basin in our yard, I do not know when the township took over the, ownership, maintenance, et cetera, of the roadway. My understanding from the meeting that we had about installing the catch basin, there were people there from Claremont County. I do not remember, I don't have their names or anything. I don't remember if Claremont, I think Claremont County still was responsible because they were there for all the inspections and whatever. I don't know when the actual year, date, et cetera, that township took over. And maybe you all know that. I don't know when that was.
All right, so just to be clear, are you kind of moving away from the road safety issue or the ponding and the?
No, I'm not moving away from it, but somebody made the comment that the catch basin's purpose was there. No, the reason we called was the road safety. Our dog was alive then, and we'd walk that, every day, 3-4 times a day up and down the roadway. And it was a sheet of ice. Whether the neighbors were walking and saw it or not, I don't know. Whether they see it now or not, because we haven't had any freezing weather. We didn't have any last year. There was no freezing ice on there. There really wasn't. So, last year that, you're right about that. If it, doesn't snow and rain and really cold weather, there is no do no semicircle. We called because that winter, multiple times that was there, and it was growing. And we called and asked if somebody could evaluate to see if there was a potential problem. That's all we asked, and all this has happened from that.
Well, Loretta, correct me if I'm wrong, but that did happen. An expert did evaluate it, correct? Klingers?
Klingers evaluated what we had done.
He evaluated the slope of the roadway, I understand.
And he said that was within normal engineering standards in terms of the slope that was created in order to meet the crown of the road to run the water off of the roadway.
So that expert was supporting that, the work done. Furthermore, John, can you go back to the issue of the culvert? Because my suspicion is the reason why they stopped doing the catch basins, and you're the expert on this, not me. So please educate me, John. The reason why they would stop doing the catch basins is because there was a culvert pipe.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where the water was all supposed to go to and then go underneath the road.
Right.
It's
But it
obviously
was
the
cut
lowest,
off at one point.
and yeah, it was,
No, that's
the access to that culvert pipe was cut off for that water to get to.
So that would push it back out on the road.
Well, the reason why it was ponding out on the road was because the grass that was laying alongside, the sod was between 4 and 5 inches higher than the edge of the roadway. So the water couldn't get to the ditch like it's designed to do. And it's like that all the way back through that roadway. I mean, we could go through and cut off, everybody's, but we would be sitting here with this. But she had called about the issue, so I went in and we took care of getting the water off the road in her area that she complained about. Now, it doesn't pond as deep along everybody else's because they're all on the upper side of the hill. It basically
Right, and it
hits
comes
the
down to
edge,
the bottom. Right.
and instead of going all the way over and going into the ditch line, it follows the edge of the road and then it goes off at hers. Now, it really doesn't matter if it follows the edge of the road or not, because if it was going into ditches, it'd be coming down and going through her driveway culvert, which is running underneath her driveway. And then it would also be going around and going into that catch basin. Either way, it's going into that catch basin.
well, it couldn't go in the catch basin and go uphill. The water won't flow uphill from where you're talking about into our catch basin.
You're right.
Well,
Coming from
it does slope from that low point off over to the catch basin that was put in by the builder. But I mean, Tom's kind of gone over that. You have retention ponds, you have all kinds of stuff that are platted in subdivisions when they're built, and certain times, water will run off from a neighbor, from a road. I mean, that happens.
May I ask you? Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's okay what's happened as a result of this? That the entire easement now, Mr. Kohler, you said to me in our conversation, you made a comment that the roadway was yours, or ours, you said, and that the catch basin or the roadway and the easement were yours, and you could do anything you wanted with them. Is the way the water is, what's happened in your words, the easement, which belong, you're all saying that you said, John, that the easement belonged to the township and you could do everything you want with it. So the easement itself and the roadway, are they together the responsibility of the township and the maintenance of them? I mean, is it okay with the township that all that water has done all that damage and runs into our property? I don't understand what you're saying.
the easement is also our responsibility to maintain for the water drainage.
And
All right,
so it's okay the way it is. I guess that's why we'd like to have you have a professional stormwater engineer. The gentleman that you sent, I asked him what his stormwater experience was, and he said he had it as a subject in class. That's what he said to me.
all right.
He was young, and So
Jane,
to get an expert in.
wrap it up. Here's the deal. We're going to have to make some kind of call here because we have other stuff to get to at tonight's meeting.
I appreciate
We can't
that.
just
I
continue to
appreciate
go
it.
back and forth on this. I think we have a few options. We can do nothing. We can table it and look into it further, which we've been doing a lot of, but I think there needs to be some definitive timeline put on this issue. I'm not weighing in right now one way or another on it. I'm just saying that, you know, we have to put some kind of end to this. So, you know, do nothing, you know, focus on the water on the road. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Bonnie, Alan?
Well, Nick, I think it seems to me that what we should do is, you know, I know that Ms. Dunnigan's not going to like this, but I think we're going to need to monitor it, look at it, and see if see how bad it is. I'd give it 30 days and revisit the issue, but it does look to me like we've reviewed this thing quite a bit. I mean, the county's looked at it, Kleinger's has looked at it. I mean, John has looked at it. I mean, it's been around the post. I mean, even the Dunnigans have hired an engineer on this thing. It's been around the post several times. So let's monitor it. This is my proposal. Let's monitor it. Let's get some pictures of it and let's revisit it for a final conclusion.
And Alan, I agree with you. That's why I asked if we could, after the next rain, get pictures, let us see, you know, what it looks like, all of us. And Nick, I'd like to, for the record, say I appreciate you stepping in on behalf of the Board of Trustees and doing all that you have done. Personally, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, okay, that sounds good to me too. I agree with both those consensus. So,
yeah, may I add one?
Yeah, Tom.
I think it's probably worthwhile to ask Loretta to contact the township's insurance company and have them open a file, because it was a very thorough presentation by Ms. Dunnigan, and you've got documents and you've got written, clear written statements. And I think if our insurance company knows about it, then at least we've cooperated with our insurance company. And I think it's worth it to do that.
Okay. I'm going to allow.
May I ask one more question?
But yeah, a brief.
This is it. This is brief. This is brief. Okay. Are you saying it's okay that the damage from all the water coming onto the roadway and is affecting and really affecting dramatically your easement, the township's easement, and damaging our property, and we can't do anything about it? Is that what you're saying? So the damages to the easement and to our property, that's okay because you're only worried about the roadway? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think, Ms. Dunnigan, that's a decision heuristic. So you're asking a different question than we're asking. I think we're asking that we look into this a little bit further from a safety perspective and get a little bit more data on it. I know we've already gotten a lot, but we're going to give it one more round, and then we're going to come back for a final decision. I don't think that's the question that we're looking to answer at this point.
Okay.
What I wanted to ask you.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Dunnigan?
Well, that's kind of a big question because that's where the damage is being done. And again, all we did was ask if it would be possible for somebody to evaluate it. We did not say fix it. We asked for an evaluation to see if it was even a problem. That was our initial quest. We've been involved in nothing else. Right now, the front of our property, from the water that's coming off the roadway, our property is definitely damaged, and so is the easement that you all haven't mentioned tonight, because you keep talking about the roadway. But that we did not ask for the work to be done. We only asked for an evaluation to see if it was a problem. That's all we asked for. And right now, you're talking only about the roadway and if there's rain or not. But you're completely ignoring the damage that the work done by the township has caused its own easement and into our property. You've seen the pictures.
We will continue to look into that. That's part of the follow-up, and I think we'll be ready to come back and talk a little more and make a final decision. For now, We have some other topics. We have other residents.
I appreciate that. Thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Let's move on here quickly and try to get to some of this other business. Thank you, Ms. Dunnigan. We're on to old business, Village of Amelia updates.
You want me to talk?
Sorry.
Yeah. Or you want Loretta?
Thank you.
Everything I have to
Whoever.
say is well written. So, Tom, yes, I think that's the biggest issue is the legal ones.
All right, let me fill you in on the several developments. First of all, on the Attorney General question that the Claremont County Prosecutor Vince Ferris was kind enough to forward onto the state. I've called up there and tried to find out who the Assistant Attorney General is who's in charge, and the office is going to put me in touch with that person, whoever it is. And so when I talk to that individual, we'll be able to make sure that person understands the importance of a quick answer, and an answer that hopefully will say what we think it should say, as well as the county prosecutor thinks it should say. Number two, as to the lawsuit, the declaratory judgment, answers have been filed by us, by Batavia, and apparently by Renee, Mr. Rosser, and Ms. Gates, Mr. Gates, just recently. None of them have come to us yet. Usually when you file an answer, you're supposed to serve the other parties and then file it in court, but nothing has been served on us yet, so we don't know what those answers say. We do know what Batavia's answer says, which is very much like ours. And what ours says is, we agree with almost everything in the complaint. And I think what I put in our answer is, we want the court to make a decision as quickly as possible, because the lack of decision on this issue is causing stress on both townships who are providing services with no corresponding income coming in. At this point, we do not have an answer filed by former Mayor Todd Hart or Regina Rumpke or Bill Gilpin or Clayton Fite. And so that's a little surprising, because the timing of their answers will trigger how quickly the court moves on this. The next point is that the lawyer for Amelia is going to file a motion to ask the judge to expedite this, put it on a fast track. And obviously we, and by we I mean Pierce and Batavia, will certainly join with that and tell the judge we want this moved as quickly as we possibly, or as quickly as the court possibly can move it. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had an attorney conference with the 4 attorneys. That is Amelia's attorney, me, Batavia's attorney, and the attorney for Renee and the other incoming council members. And what we tried to discuss was whether there would be a way to resolve the matter without leaving it up to the judge, by way of creating some kind of a consent decree, or an agreed upon entry, like a mandatory injunction or an agreed upon injunction. And the way we left it was that Attorney Miller Novak was going to try to discuss that. But at this point, we haven't heard back whether there's been any success in trying to create an agreed entry. The thought that we all talked about is it would take some level of creativity to come up with a solution whereby both sides to the dispute can feel that they've participated in a mutually satisfactory decision. That is the latest update. Oh, and by the way, the state auditor meeting that was scheduled for this previous Monday was canceled by the state auditor and will now be rescheduled for several weeks down the road. So that's my update.
So Tom, real quick, with regard to a creative agreement, now that would be binding on the 4 parties, but would it be binding on the auditor if we entered into an agreement like that?
Yes, because the reason why is because the auditor has made it crystal clear that they would appreciate some judge deciding how to rule. So if the parties can creatively come up with a solution that is satisfactory to a judge, then that would be binding on the county, at least as to these particular facts in this particular county. So yes, the Attorney General has, or I'm sorry, the auditor has said they would love to have a court decision. And in fact, they told us that right from the beginning, that many of these dissolution problems end up in courts. And they're often glad to see that, because then there's a judge telling them what to do.
But isn't it also true that at least one party to the discussions provided the county auditor with a solution that they rejected?
The county auditor or the state?
I'm sorry, the state auditor.
I think, yes, I think that's true. I think the state auditor
So,
is, they have taken a position that makes it appear that they are taking sides in the dispute. Yes.
so if we end up coming up with an agreement, and I'm not saying that one is imminent, I'm just simply saying, if that agreement looks similar to the one that we presented to the state auditor weeks ago, can we bill your charges to the state auditor because they put us through this crap?
I wish you could, but I don't think so, because that involves government immunity again. You can sue anybody for anything, but I think they'd be immune from that. Sorry, it's a good idea, but it probably would not work.
It's a nice little racket, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the update, Tom.
You're welcome.
Let's see here. Do we have any, Bonnie, you got anything on that?
No, I don't.
Anybody else in the audience here? Raised hands. Amelia, folks, I see some of you on the call here. Okay.
There's still some more items to discuss here, so they may be interested in some of those.
All right, so Rumpke Junk Day.
Yes, Loretta here. So we have June the 27th agreed upon for the junk day that's been customary to be held in the spring for Amelia customers only who are direct billed by Rumpke under the contract that currently exists. So the residents hopefully are going to get a direct mailing from Rumpke to confirm that, to let them know how that's handled. From what I understand, and the folks on the call know better than I do because they participated before, they set the items out the night before and then they're collected on that next Saturday morning or throughout the day on that Saturday. And that's only for the Pierce Township side of the road. And that's unlimited on that date
And
at the curb.
Only for the village, to be sure. The rest of the township, we have a different process for that stuff.
Correct.
To be sure, the rest of the township process, in case anything gets integrated at any point, is essentially you put out whatever you want. You put out any large item, you can put out brush, leaves, yard waste, and they like 48 hours notice, I believe, but you put it out, give them 48 hours notice and they'll come get it. You don't.
One large item a week.
What's that?
One large item a week.
Yeah.
Under a regular contract.
Right. All right. So anything on that? No, I'm not seeing anything. Disposal of vehicles and large equipment.
So I met with Adele with Batavia Township and we compared notes from different sources for the valuing of the vehicles because that's our first priority for determining vehicles that we may want to retain, what the values would be on those vehicles, and vehicles that we could sell on gov.deals. There's a possibility there's a couple old Crown Vics that may be of interest to maybe some very small police departments. So I've asked our chief if he could imagine or reach out to any that might be interested in those, because any vehicles that were equipped for police, if you sell them on gov.deals, we're going to have our mechanic remove certain items out of it that can't be sold to the general public. So that's an additional piece of work and really an expense to us. And our mechanic has been doing a fair amount of that already, even to get the vehicle ready to be managed through the insurance settlement that had been wrecked. That was also a police vehicle. So I'm hoping that perhaps since we have a meeting scheduled to happen later here this month, that we may be able to review that list and perhaps initiate the sale through gov.deals. At least there's 2 resolutions we have to pass in order to authorize the sale of excess equipment. And that is a resolution that allows the process to be sold under gov.deals and a resolution that identifies the items to be sold as excess. So I need the detail, but if I had it by June the 24th, I'm hoping you'd be agreeable to looking at that then. So I'll let you know how far I get with that level of detail. Right now, I have the list with Chief Bachman to review for us, since they're most familiar with the sale of police vehicles.
Thanks, Loretta. Appraisal of real estate.
That's an item that's on the agenda further down. Batavia Township had initiated the request for the proposal from Cantor, who we had talked to earlier on in the process, for the valuation of the real estate that is now jointly held between Batavia Township and Pierce Township, that had been owned by the Village of Amelia. So we'll look at the appraisals, and then we'll have further discussions about those numbers and what our next process will be to be agreed upon between Batavia Township and Pierce Township.
Zoning review and public hearing process to be scheduled with Zoning Commission, followed by Board of Trustees.
That would be Eddie's. Just a placeholder for the moment, right?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It's we're working on getting the our next meeting set up, and we'll just putting the finishing touches on the Amelia zoning and then putting it into our resolution. So that should hopefully be getting concluded in July.
So that's the hearing that has to be held first by the Zoning Commission, and then it'll come to public hearing of the trustees, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
All right.
Could I ask a question? I think Eddie mentioned this to me the other day. Did the county already take a look at that, the County Planning Commission, and have they approved it?
Yes, the Claremont County Planning Commission has already approved the existing text, the proposed text.
Good. Great.
All right. Status of energy aggregation program opt-out notices. What I like to do here is let's do a brief overview of this from the beginning. I'm talking brief. I know this meeting's running a little long already. So let's, Loretta, would you mind kind of going at this from the beginning, how we rolled it out? Just give us a brief overview.
Well, we obviously back in November of 2018 for Pierce Township, we had created the aggregation program. The voters voted for that. It was approved. Therefore, anyone who's in Pierce Township is eligible to be in the aggregation program. When the Village of Amelia was coming on, it was one of those items that had been brought up several times to our broker, asking, when will this be ready to be implemented? Because, you know, with the status of all the questions about when millage rates change, when services are provided, all of those issues, legally, we didn't know when the residents of Amelia on the Pierce Township side would be eligible to become part of the aggregation program. What happened was that the letter was drafted, sent to me one week, where we had other items on our agenda. I had meant to at least bring it to everyone's attention. That letter was shared, but I thought it was a draft. That letter was already ready to be launched. It had already been drafted by the supplier, Dynegy. I had released the mailing list, which is one of the steps in order to prepare for getting customers advised of the aggregation program. So those notices went out, and I apologize, without enough information going to the public first in terms of the new customers from Amelia to know what that mailing was about and to know why it was on Pierce letterhead as well. So we tried to quickly share information, put it on our website, send it out on Circle, and the Amelia folks through their own network have also helped to share that information. We have it posted on our website. Anyone who did not necessarily opt out that wanted to can call the number at any time. I put the link here on the agenda again so people can go straight to it. You can call if you think that you are going to be put in Dynegy against your will, and just tell them you absolutely do not want to be. There's usually a second notice that also comes from Duke Energy that tells people before they switch suppliers that they are intending to switch them, and gives you one more opportunity to opt out. The other confusing fact is that Duke Energy provided all of Amelia's addresses, which included the Batavia Township side of the road. I've been told by our provider that none of those customers will be impacted from the Batavia Township side of the road. Whether they sent the opt-out notice in or not, they should not be included in the Pierce Township program. At this point now, we're verifying people's bills. So anyone who is in our aggregation program now, I really encourage them to look at their bill, make sure that you look at the aggregation rate that we had negotiated with Dynegy and compare it to the price to compare that's also stated on your Duke Energy bill when it comes. If anyone needs help reading that information, looking at that on the bill, I'm happy to help assist them with that. We try to put a sample also on our website, but I also realized that Duke Energy's just started changing their billing format. The same information is there, it's just in different places now. So I'm just happy to take anybody's calls to answer any more questions about that.
Thanks, Loretta. All right, so I think with that one, you know, you got to eat crow and you got to eat crow, and I think we did a kind of a crappy job pushing that out. We did kind of a poor job with the PR ahead of that thing and communicating that to residents prior to it going out. We put a lot of effort into when we did that with the rest of the township, as I recall. I don't think that same effort was put in this time. And, you know, I think we need to accept a little bit of accountability on that end. On the other hand, if you don't like it, you can always opt out. I mean, we're not binding anybody in anything, but I get how some people are upset about this. And we've tried to remedy it by putting information out, educating people the best we can, kind of owning it and moving on. Do I have any public comment on that? Eddie, can you real briefly go through how you raise your hand if you're on a phone call? So in case anybody wants to do so right now, they're not hampered by not knowing how to do it from a phone.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're on a phone, you're going to want to press *9, and that will raise your hand. And if you are participating on the computer, you can use the participant panel and press raise your hand. And that will notify everyone that you're interested in speaking.
All right, Renee.
Hey, everybody. First of all, Loretta, I want to thank you publicly for negotiating our junk day and getting our yard sale weekend done. I appreciate all the hard work, you know, that it took you guys to do that, and it's much appreciated. The other thing I had to say is, and I don't know how much I can say, but our answers were filed in court, and I will let my attorney know that you all did not get a copy. But I'm very disappointed to hear that Tom, that you agreed with what Amelia had to say in the complaint.
Oh, no, I didn't agree with their complaint. I agreed that they said that the state statute was unclear. That's what we agreed with.
Okay,
Yeah, we didn't agree with any opinion of who should be seated. We want the judge to decide that.
okay.
No, yeah.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Right.
But again, I'm going to put it out there that we're trying to do what's right for the people that voted for us to represent them. And, the fact that Todd is still getting paid, and I'd still like to know for somebody to tell me what hours he works, what he does to gain $2,000 a month, because we've done records requests and nobody can tell us what he does, but he's still getting paid $2,000. I out of our money. I just don't get it. Absolutely don't get it. And I know your guys' deficit with your attorney fees, and Alan, I'm with you. I wish y'all could sue the state, because if not for them, this wouldn't be an issue. And also the village had 2 months to do, their stuff in November and December, and chose not to do that. And so again, Tom, I will get a hold of Matt and ask him to send that to you. I've got it, but I don't know, I would send it to you.
Renee, I think he probably sent it. He probably just sent it by regular mail. And I think it was filed on Monday. So it probably will be sitting in our mailbox tomorrow.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that. We can, it's just that we couldn't look at it online.
Yeah, because I can't see Batavia's either. I would have liked that. Yeah. And I finally saw that you guys had done yours. And I don't know if, because the village is representing Todd, Regina, and Clayton, if that's the reason they didn't, I don't know why the village would be representing them.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not. No.
Thank you for that. See, I learned something. But again, and Nick, we're trying to get the information out about the Dynegy stuff, and we're trying to get the stuff out there about the junk day. So we're trying to help y'all out by getting it out on Wake Up Amelia. And that's why I'm glad you guys send that stuff to us as well, because that's about the only way we can get information out. We did notice that the village website is back up for some reason. I don't know what that's about, but whoever's running that could put out the information as well, since it's back up and running. Somebody's paying for it to be back up, and it was taken down and deleted after the dissolution, and now for some reason it's back up. So that's all I got for you guys tonight.
Thanks. Anybody have any information on that website, Loretta?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, it got, Tim may be able to help me out with that, but it's been about 2 weeks now, because there was absolutely nothing. And then when the announcement came out, the council was going to meet, a shell came up with just said Amelia Village on it. And now everything's back up. Ordinances, resolutions, everything's back up.
I guess they're trying to be transparent, Renee.
A day late and $3.2 million short.
I was just glad you laughed when I said that.
Well, I've been laughing a lot tonight. You cracked me up. But yeah, so I didn't know if somebody could find out why they put that back up, because we were paying a host domain for that. And I forget, I'd have to look at the bills, but somebody runs that and we pay them.
Well, I think that's something we should look into.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Jumping off from something that Renee said about Todd Hart getting paid $2,000 a month. Correct me if I'm wrong, but way back when, maybe it was February, January timeframe, when we did have that discussion about Todd Hart's salary, it was stated at that time that we would pay as long as we felt that he was needed, correct?
I remember something like that being discussed, but I don't remember whether you as trustees voted on anything. I remember the discussion. It was very fluid. It was.
We voted on sending a letter saying that we didn't think he should be there. That was.
I'm just a bit concerned that at this point we're into legal maneuvering and I don't know what he's doing. And to Renee's point, no one seems to know what he's doing. I think we need to get an assessment of what keeps him busy every day to earn the 2,000 a month. And two,
I'll find that out. Yeah.
I would pose that we at least pause payment to him until there's a point we need him again, consistent with what I thought we agreed to in February.
Yeah, when I heard Renee's comment, I was a little surprised that he's being paid. I was thinking he wasn't being paid because he wasn't doing anything. I'll find out.
I remember that issue being brought to me, but I don't ever remember weighing in on pulling the trigger and actually coming up with an amount.
Right. He got paid 2,000. We got the financials for let's see, what's this, June? For May?
Yeah.
May, and he was paid 2,000, and then in
2004.
April was paid $10,000.
Right.
Yeah,
Well-
that's what I did there, Bonnie.
Well, the state originally wanted to pay him like 46,000. So
Right, and we got a 503-page dump from Kathleen on records request. And in that, buried in there, is the agreement that I don't know if any of you saw it. I can send it out, but where Kathleen sent off asking for this amount of money. And because I'd asked you guys, how was that agreement made? And there was nobody ever had an agreement. But I found
supposedly with the state. It was supposedly with the state auditor.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the way I remember it also.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Some of this stuff is happening, like with paying this guy, and no one's really who's in control of this process. No one's signing off on it.
I want to know where we came up with
the state denies
$2,000.
culpability, and they act like they're advisory, and they don't have any
Right.
say what goes on.
Right.
I mean,
I think that two things. I think that the village was paying those people because the state auditor told them to. Then at some point it shifted. It might have been April or May when Bill Gilpin became concerned that he could be paying things without specific written authority of the state auditor, and he could get hammered at the end of the line. That's one reason why he said that he thought that the village should file that declaratory judgment, because he had to have a sitting council in order to authorize these payments that he was making. So I think he indicated that he was going to put a halt to making those payments.
But he made a dump of payments.
I'll find out.
He did. He made a dump of payments.
Yeah.
What I would propose is this. We were meeting again on the 24th, correct?
For the budget.
Yeah. Can we, one, have the information available to know what Mr. Hart has been doing? And two, be prepared to make a motion asking for his termination, at least on a temporary basis, until we have further work he's needed to do. Because I know the state will freak out if we try to fire him.
Yeah. I think you can do whatever you feel is best to speed this process up. Yeah.
Can we, Mr. Chair, would it be acceptable for us to make a motion tonight to direct the legal counsel to, one, investigate activities of Mr. Todd Hart, and two, to prepare a motion that we can consider on the 24th, asking for at least the stoppage of work and payment to Mr. Hart?
I would personally be agreeable to that. Bonnie, what do you think?
That's fine.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Roll call?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
And that would fall under the category, because I know we're meeting on the budget, but I believe that would fall under the category of all other business as applies, correct?
Oh, yes. It's a special meeting. You can meet
Okay.
on anything you feel is appropriate. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to do the notice that way. The notice hasn't even gone out yet, so we'll make
Right.
sure that it's broad enough.
Right.
So can we have a brief reiteration of that motion so we know we're following up and following through?
Thank you. Alan, please repeat that.
We are directing our legal counsel to ascertain the activities of Mr. Hart relative to the dissolution process, and to prepare a motion requesting that he cease work until otherwise notified. And his
Don't include-
compensation will also cease until further notified.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. You got anything else?
Got it.
Nope, I don't think so.
Okey doke. Anybody else on this topic of Amelia? I don't see any raised hands. Eddie, do you see any? Okay. We need to schedule a date and time for the On the Green. Eddie?
Yep. So tentatively right now, June 23rd at 6:30 p.m. is the date that seems to work for a good amount of people. Just waiting to hear back from everyone else. If everyone who hasn't responded already, if you just let me know sometime tomorrow at the latest, if June 23rd at 6:30 p.m. works for your schedule. So we'll host a Zoom meeting. And at that meeting, we'll go over and allow the management team to update us on their 16-point plan, as well as any other items that have come up between our last meeting and then.
Okay. I have it on my schedule.
23rd, Eddie.
Yep, 6:30 on the 23rd.
I'm good.
Okay.
Mr. Freeman?
Is this gonna be a trustees meeting? 2?
Silent.
Thanks for the thumbs up. You're muted, but I get it. All right.
Eddie, so we need to send a notice out on this meeting too? Or is this just the informational meeting?
It's all the trustees, so it does need a notice also for June 23rd.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
yeah, it's a special meeting of the trustees.
And we need to be prepared to vote if necessary, correct? So it can't just be a work session, right?
We will bring the resolution that's been tabled to the meeting, and so you can make a determination on that resolution. And
Okay,
the Attorney's Counsel is also going to be attending the meeting, Mr. Novak.
of course.
All right, great. That's set up. Learning Center contract approval of permits received 6/2/20. Start of construction anticipated mid-June.
Yes, and there's just one item that's on our agenda to follow up on this. One of the requirements for the grant, because it's funded with tax exempt bonds, is that the land that is improved with those bonds that are funding that grant have to be restricted for at least 15 years only for the purpose that it was designated for, which is a public purpose. This is for the park project. So you'll see a action that I'll be asking to authorize the chair of the trustees to sign those documents because they have to legally be recorded at the recorder's office, and that will encumber those deeds for that period of time. John, do you have anything else, any other updates I'm not aware of on the work?
Was that one there? No.
Okay, the Parks Committee did make the selection of the color of the stone for the exterior. I assume that everyone's fine with whatever they liked, so I left it to them and submitted that to the contractor.
I thought fuchsia was a little weird, but okay.
Yeah.
I thought a neon color would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, that way the police can keep an eye on it.
Right. Again, the park pass and both contractors are aware of each other. The county is actually managing the park path project, and that has to meet certain ODOT requirements as well. So ODOT is also was at the table for the pre-construction meeting that John was at. So John can chime in on this one also. So June the 4th is when that meeting happened. And as I understand it, start of construction is anticipated after the 4th of July, somewhere around the 6th.
Yes, and they kind of, the contractor kind of acted like he would like for the park to be closed during their working, because they will be moving a lot of equipment around at fast speeds with walkers and everything else being over there. It could get pretty dangerous.
George reported that at the Parks Committee meeting as well. So I think once we have a firm timeline, we're going to have to share that information with the public.
But the one thing that I do think, the contractor didn't act like he knew that we had any dirt for the berm. So his bid kind of came in as if they were going to have to supply all of that dirt. When we were at that meeting, I told him that we had a pretty good supply of dirt back in the cemetery that they're more than welcome to use. And he acted like, after the meeting, I took him back there and showed him, and he was pretty happy about that. So hopefully we should, I don't know how it works, but hopefully we'd be able to get some money back for the dirt that they were supposed to buy, that they're supposed to buy.
We
Gonna
won't
have
get any.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Loretta.
Well, I was just going to say, if the county doesn't know you had that conversation, it didn't happen, partly because they're managing the contract. Go ahead. You're probably going to speak to that.
Well,
Well,
go ahead, John.
No,
I'm
that was
sorry.
Brad.
I brought it up during the meeting.
Well, it just won't be billed is what'll happen, Loretta. They just, for the building material, they won't buy dirt. It just won't be part of the bill at the final inspection. So we just would, it'll just come in less that amount of money for the dirt.
Yeah, we'll just have to make sure that the quantities are properly adjusted, because a lot of that detail is going to the county from the contractor.
Well, we just have to make sure he doesn't bill the county for that dirt. And then if that's the case, and I'm sure he's going to be honorable and not do that. So there'll be, a small amount that'll be left on the bill.
More the better.
Good deal. Anything else on the dirt topic? All right. State Route 125 corridor study.
Yep. So we actually just received the first full draft from Jay Stewart, our consultant, this evening. And so we'll be reviewing that and bringing it before the trustees for review, comment, and feedback in general.
Eddie, can we go ahead and share that with all the I mean, I got it tonight as well, just like you did. But let's go ahead and share that with the other two so they can really dig into it. When it's time to discuss it, we can really have a full in-depth discussion about it.
Will do.
Thank you.
Great. All right. COVID-19 impacts. I guess, Craig, do you want to take this topic?
Sure. I mean, not a whole lot's changed from last month. Continue to work with Administrator Roki and Chief Bachman and Director Kohler, just to stay on top of the orders that come out from the state as things continue to open, and the guidance that's released pertaining to those, and clarifying some things with the health district as we need to. So we're continuing to move forward. The township buildings are still restricted access, but we still have all of the processes in place that have been there for the last few months with digital means and appointments that seem to be working very well. I knock on wood, I don't think we've had any complaints about any of our residents or visitors having any issues getting what they need from the township. I know Administrator Roki is staying very well updated on the FEMA process and the numerous funding opportunities that are coming out. I know there's Senate Bill 310 that's made its way through Ohio that's going to provide some additional funding to local governments and the various other opportunities that are out there. So she's working really hard to keep those separated, and we just have to be careful as we move forward that we watch the grant opportunities and the money that we get, because we can't get paid twice for the same thing, or can't use money from two sources for the same thing. So we just have to be a little diligent in that. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Playgrounds.
Oh, yes. The playgrounds by order open today. That was one of the things that we spent a lot of time trying to get some clarification on. I know Administrator Roki worked a lot with Chris Klingman from the County Park District, and we struggled a little bit trying to figure out what we needed to do for that to happen. And I found out this morning on our countywide call, and then I believe Administrator Roki also found out from Chris Klingman that there really wasn't, this was an instance where the state decided not to put out any guidance or even requirements, recommendations, or anything, just said you could open them. So it's been a bit of a challenge to navigate through each step and making sure that we do the best to comply.
There are signs that will be posted. I imagine John will get it done tomorrow sometime. I don't think it got done today, but basically there's one that's been prepared by the state itself, basically a nice picture of a playground. Please maintain social distancing and wash and/or sanitize hands before and after play to stop the spread of disease. And then, another kind of disclaimer sign that we copied from another township. And I think both of these can be posted on our playgrounds.
Those signs will be ready tomorrow. Doug's going to go pick them up tomorrow morning, and they'll be up tomorrow after that.
And then how long will the playground be open before we shut it down for construction?
Not long, but we do have to say, Amelia does have a very nice playground over in Sedona Ridge area.
Yeah. I think that's nice that's available to folks.
Yes.
My son Owen's heart's going to be broken. He just got a little taste of it, and that's going to be shut down. It's one of his favorite spots.
And now you're going to be the mean daddy.
We blame it all on the germs.
Yeah.
I do have to say that the park over in Shank Park is a really, really nice playground. It is. So
you can take Owen over there.
Good. I encourage the residents to go check out some of the other parks that we've got now.
Yeah.
We're going to tell him, Nick, there's another park.
Yeah. Well,
Daddy's holding out on you. He's not letting you know about the other cool parks.
That's right.
We'll spray him with the hose in the backyard. It's hot out now. All right. Bradbury Road improvement.
Well, I think that we've just about finished the negotiation of right of way, and the documents are being finalized by Clangers, and Tom Keating is in all of this correspondence now, so that as soon as the right documents go to him, he can prepare what's necessary to have signed so that everything is ready for the bidding next.
Okay.
And then John has the bid advertisement out for resurfacing.
All right. Good deal.
Anything to add, John?
We'll know more on the 15th.
You want to say what roads are in it?
Oh yeah. There's actually only 3 roads in it this year. They're just very large roads, so they're using up a lot of resources. It's Beckjord Road, which is in really, really bad shape. The lower part of Pond Run Road, which is in really bad shape. And the Davis Road, basically from Michael Drive all the way down to 9 Mile, which is it's like sheeting off. So we need to get that taken care of.
Back, Jordan.
All right. Thanks, John. All right, the indigent burial.
John can speak to that too.
Yes, Laura, they've come up with a reimbursement program for indigent burials. Basically, we received a $500 reimbursement for one of the indigent burials that we had buried that was at the expense of the township. Laura worked really hard on it, and she was able to get us at least one of them reimbursed. So that's a big deal.
It's a competitive program and first come, first serve until the money runs out.
That's great. I don't mean to take the wind out of your sails, but $500? I mean, is that I mean, is that really
It
what
covers the cost.
Ed Nuri spoke of that program at the January Township Association meeting.
Cool. All right. New business, Debbie?
Yes. I request a motion for approval of the payment of the payroll for the month of May in the amount of $356,104.75.
A motion?
Make a
So
motion.
moved. Seconded.
Did you just so move and second, Alan?
Actually, I think that Bonnie just moved and I was moving at the same time she was. So I yielded.
We're movers, Alan. We're movers.
That's right. That's right. So I'm yielding my movement to be the second in her movement.
All right. Debbie, you'll straighten all that out, right?
Yeah.
Actually, she straightened it out well before I talked.
That was all just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
See, now, Nick, if we were in an actual meeting, I would have already kicked Alan.
I know. We need a virtual shoe next to the virtual hand raise.
Feel it, Alan? Did you feel that nudge?
I did. It was weird. It was really weird. And now I've got a virtual bruise right there.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
I request a motion for approval of the payment of the bills for the month of May in the amount of $296,933.44.
I so move.
Okay.
I will second.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
And this is the last one. I don't have anything else tonight, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I request a motion for approval of the TIF payment to West Claremont Local School District in the amount of $42,770.77.
So moved.
And I gladly second.
Okay. Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
I'm done.
All right, Debbie, thanks. Chief Wright, you're up again.
Thank you. I request a motion to accept the resignations of the following part-time employees: Adam Deskins, Corey Myers, and Jason Curtis, effective June 1st, 2020.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes. Chief Wright, you're up again.
I request a motion to approve the purchase of 10 sets of turnout gear from Vogelpool Fire Equipment in the amount of $27,850.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you. I request a motion to approve the purchase of MDCs and associated equipment for our remaining vehicles from PCS Mobile in the amount of $15,044.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Service Director Kohler.
Service Director John Kohler requests a motion to accept a proposal from JR Trees LLC in the amount of $3,000 for the removal of 4 trees on township property off of Palestine Road.
So
They
moved.
are
So it was so moved, John. Do I have a second?
Alan?
Oh, yeah, I seconded already.
Oh, we didn't see your lips move. He's a vent. Jeez.
Like a kung fu movie there.
I say yes, sorry.
Mrs. Batchelor?
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes,
Okay, and Mr. Kelly?
Yes,
Thank you.
it's getting a little squirrely up in here.
it is.
Yeah, it's getting late.
Loretta?
All right, I'll talk really fast. We already talked about these things. I request a motion authorizing an agreement with Cantor Realty LLC for real estate appraisal services for property formerly owned by the Village of Amelia in the amount of $3,200 with 50% of the cost to be shared with Batavia Township. And they have already passed their approval of this as well.
All right.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Mrs. Batchelor?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes,
Mr. Kelly?
Loretta?
I also request a motion authorizing resolution 2020-015, a resolution authorizing the signature and recording of the notice of tax exempt bond funding for Pierce Park parcels 272-813-D033 and 27813E122 for the Learning Center Capital Improvement Project.
could you repeat the second parcel for me? I'm not sure I caught that.
It's written right there.
Sorry about
She's practicing. She's going to leave to be an auctioneer.
that. So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Freeman?
Yes,
Mrs. Batchelor?
Yes.
And Mr. Kelly?
Yes. All right. Departmental updates. Chief Bachman, are you on here?
He went to bed.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if this is considered a celebration, but I'm going to make it one that the eviction court has opened up again. Now I know COVID-19 has been hard on a lot of people and I understand that, but the evictions that we need to get going on the green, I did talk with Gene, have been in the process way before COVID-19. So these are people who should have gone months ago, but due to the eviction courts being shut down, they have been allowed to stay there for about 3 extra months. So they're open again and we should get some people out of there, which is great news. And just as an update, I know someone was bringing up the Amelia webpage has been restarted, and I don't know if I did this by mistake, and maybe someone with a little bit of, I had a flip phone up to 6 months ago, so I'm not sure how this all works. But we did turn on the internet at the old police department, at Amelia Police Department, so we could have a computer in case we had to shut down our building due to COVID-19. So we are operating out of there. Kind of as a substation. So maybe by us turning on the internet, I don't know if that could have rebooted something, but if so, if someone can say that might have been it, I will call the provider of the internet and see if he can, I don't know, turn it back off for that, turn off that part. Does that make sense?
I don't think that there's a connection there.
Okay. Good enough then. Okay, I'll leave it at that because that sounds great. And that's all I have for the police department.
I make a motion to take Chief Bachman's regular phone and give him back a flip phone.
You know what? Life was a lot easier. Now I'm sitting here.
You, Jeff.
I'm sitting here on my new phone now, looking at you all, but which is great. But I do miss my flip phone.
I'll bet you I'm much better looking on the flip phone.
By all means.
You're like 3 pixels on the flip phone. Looks good.
And that's all I have.
Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Chief Wright?
So I'll be brief. It's a bit of an update and it is a celebration also. I think everybody's aware now one of our ambulances was involved in a wreck last Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. They were struck head on State Route 749. It's a celebration of the fact that our folks weren't hurt. So they went to the hospital. They were banged up. They're sore, but thankfully they were uninjured. The unit sustained pretty significant damage. The car that they were involved with, we did have to extricate the other driver. And they did have some injuries. We've not gotten an update on that. So hopefully they recover quickly. It's also a celebration of the fact that our folks, after being involved in the accident, immediately got out of our ambulance. And when I got there, chest pain aside, they were inside of the other vehicle treating the other occupant, which is, I think, a true testament to the character of our folks. I have talked to our insurance company. I talked to the claims adjuster today. They are going to be sending a specialty adjuster down to evaluate the vehicle, and I will keep you updated. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Craig. Service, streets, cemetery, parks.
On obviously the parks opened back up today as far as the playgrounds, but the Dorado Court the pipe is all done. It's in. The only thing we have left to do is a little bit of cleanup on the outside, outside the right of way, clean it up a little bit, and then I wait until there's probably gonna be a lot of settling as far as on the ends of the pipe in their yards. So after talking with Mike, the guy that he suggested that we wait until probably closer to fall or late summer to do the finished grade on those, so that we don't have issues with it sinking. So we'll let it settle out, and then we'll get the blacktop patched back in where the gravel's in the road, and then get the final grade, all in some topsoil, and do the final grade on where we excavated. So that is a big win. That was a big project.
That's great, John. Thanks, man. And Alan, you've been working on that too. You've been meeting with residents and all that on that. I haven't really been privy to that much.
Yeah, no, John's done a tremendous job. We had a meeting, in April with the residents. It went very well, I thought. There were some follow-ups back and forth between some residents just to clarify a variety of issues, but I think John's done great work with the neighbors and really, laying out the scope of work in a way that I think they're all pretty much on board. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yes, they were really, really happy. So,
Yeah.
Like I said, we got a few little touch-ups to do tomorrow, and then we'll be off of it for a while. We'll go back and monitor the gravel that's in the roadway at that point to keep it from, it's going to settle out too, being that it was 15 feet in the ground. You're not going to get all the compaction out of it, bringing it up. So we will have to continue to add gravel to it, just to keep it up for it's safe. And then later this summer, we'll get a blacktop back over, and it'll be seamless for them. And then hopefully next year we can afford to pave the road.
Yeah, that's the next step, to get the road repaved, the entirety of the road.
Yes.
So then we can provide them with a finished product.
That's awesome, guys. Thank you. Loretta?
I don't think that I have anything that I didn't already talk about at this point, unless you have any questions for me. I'll go ahead and jump ahead. The salute to leaders, I have registered all 3 trustees for.
Thank you.
And Laura.
Thank you. I was just joking about putting it on my tab. I don't think I have a tab up there.
Oh, you owe Debbie now.
Woohoo!
All right, I'll be in after the meeting, I guess, to take care of that.
Oh, you need to sign this resolution too. Yeah, not tonight, but you do need to come in and sign the resolution that we just passed too, or the documents that go with it.
Fair enough. All right, consideration of the appointment for the zoning commission candidates.
Eddie had provided all of you the applicants that had been received. So I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to consider this and make a recommendation.
I have.
Yes.
So we have 5 total applicants, is that correct? Maybe a 6th one that trickled in?
Yep, 6 total. 1 came in after the deadline, and then one of the existing member, Mr. Bori, who is a full-time member whose term is ending, has requested to be moved to an alternate position. And just as a refresher too, if 2 of the applicants, Mr. Campbell and Ms. Freedy, are both alternate members presently. So if either of them are chosen into the full-time position, then their position will have to be backfilled.
So explain, all right, so we're trying to fill a zoning board commission seat.
Yep.
Explain to me again about what Ms. Rabori had,
Sure. So Mr. Campbell and Ms. Freedy are both alternates right now. And so our commission is composed of 5 full-time and 2 alternates. So if one of the alternates is chosen out of this list here, we'll have a vacancy created in the alternates. A part of that is that Mr. Bori has requested to become an alternate herself. And, but otherwise, you know, there are candidates that are not alternates or on the commission at all at this point.
okay, so this is kind of twofold. We need to decide if we're going to appoint somebody to that spot and then decide what the process will be to fill the alternate candidate spot if that becomes a vacancy, right?
Exactly, that's right.
So Eddie, how long has Susan been on as an alternate? She's been there a few years, right?
She is the longer tenured of the alternates. Mr. Campbell has been on for the least amount of time. And I can get the exact number if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I just,
2.5 is running.
okay. I knew Susan had been an alternate for a while. I've never heard anything but praise about her, so.
I mean, I'm comfortable with making a motion that we accept Susan. We appoint her to the zoning commission seat, the full seat.
I think, yes, I would go along with that.
I'm very comfortable with that as well. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second,
To go with Susan.
Susan.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So what that creates then is.
Debbie, you want to do roll call?
Yes. Mr.
Yeah,
Freeman?
wait, Eddie. You just wait, Eddie.
I'm just so excited.
Hold your horses, Eddie.
Gee, many Christmas, Eddie. It's not going to be official. You keep jumping in.
Act like this meeting's going on a long time.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Bachelor?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are
Eddie,
you going to make your alternate appointment or not?
Eddie,
We
we're
already adjourned, Loretta.
hold on. Eddie, what'd you have to say, man?
Oh,
Mr.
well,
Chairman, get control of this mess.
Yeah, this is out of control, you guys.
You can't do anything about it. You can't get to us.
I just can't contain my excitement in general, you know? So we have, it's not mandatory, but we have 2 alternate positions normally. And so now we will have 1 vacancy. So as far as options go, the path of least resistance is choosing one of the applications that are here before you. You can choose not to fill it. You can re-advertise. It's up to you. However you want to proceed.
I feel it would be presumptuous that the same applicants would be interested in the alternate spot. I mean, that could be, but perhaps we should open it back up again as has been our process typically.
I agree with that.
All right. Well, Bonnie, you think we should go ahead and take applicants for the alternate spot?
if Eddie is in agreement with it, since he is the one that has to work with these people, if he's satisfied, I would be.
Yeah. I think that's a reasonable request. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that then? Why don't we open, the same type of process, same type of timeline, give a certain amount of time for applicants to come in, and we'll get the applicants together and applications together and we'll review them, and same thing.
And that's not going to hold up any zoning commission meetings or decisions in the meantime?
No, it shouldn't.
All right. Good deal. Anything else on that topic? All right. I think that's pretty much it. Now, we're going to go, we'll have one more opportunity here for public comment. I know it's redundant, but Eddie, you have this on, you should have this on a recording. Can you go back over real quick how to chime in if you're not on the computer?
Sure. If you're on the phone, you can press *9 and that will raise your hand. And Mr. McCoy has raised his hand on the computer.
All righty. Mr. McCoy.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
Hey, when it comes to selecting an alternate, was there a resident from Amelia that applied? There was a resident that was gonna apply. I don't know if she ever did or not, and her name is failing me right now. Anybody know?
Eddie, you'd be best to weigh in on that.
Yeah. Did you say Amelia residence?
Yeah, there was an Amelia resident that was real curious about it, and she had 25 years experience.
Huntsman Trace.
And like I said, her name's failing me right now.
Yeah. So it looks like
Beverly,
Beverly
Gangler.
Yeah, that's
and Cassidy.
Huntsman Trace.
Yeah, I don't know if she's gonna be disappointed or not, but she still has an opportunity to be an alternate. So I guess you guys are gonna put out some kind of statement or something saying that the person was selected for the full position and that other people can apply for the alternate, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Eddie, Loretta.
Okay, and I got something for Chief Bachman. Chief, you still there?
I am.
There's that I don't know what it's called, where they track people's speed.
The radar trailer?
The radar trailer, yeah, it's right there on the street that has the post office.
South Klein?
Yeah, did someone request that? 'Cause it's kind of a bizarre spot. It seems like it's almost impossible to get over the speed limit.
Yes, it was requested by a gentleman who's called myself, John Kohler, the administrator, about the trucks that are hauling dirt and building equipment back to South Klein, the station back there, coming and going at high rates of speed. So it was a request, and that's why it's there.
Gotcha. Because I'm not saying I tried hard, but I did try, and it seems like it's hard to get up the speed limit in a little bit of time you're there. I guess you could do it, but even if you do get past the speed limit, you have to stop right away. But what I have been noticing though is on Main Street, the Amelia police always kind of gave you like a 5 mile an hour kind of leeway, so you could easily go 30 miles an hour. Believe me, I tested that too. But it does seem like it's not many people, but it does seem like there's more speeding going through there, like 35 and 40. To me, it seemed like that would be the place to put that radar trailer, in my opinion. But just so we can track how much speeding is actually going on in that 25 mile an hour zone.
Well, we have people call in and we put them on a list. So if you're requesting it, we can get it somewhere on Main Street. My second thing is if you try hard enough to get a high speed on South Klein, you may end up with a ticket. So I don't know how hard you want to try to go over the barrier there. But if you're requesting the trailer, I'll put you in contact with the officer who's in charge of it, and we'll put you on the list of a couple people out, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I got, guys. Nice seeing y'all again.
You want to be more specific about how hard you're trying to?
Well, I wouldn't try that hard, but if you do get over the 25, there's the red light is right there. It's like, but I wasn't coming from South Line Station either. I was coming from the
I got
Well,
you. That's a
I didn't
good
try that hard, Chief. I'm sorry.
Well, you have to realize that we do need some room to put that trailer, so we have to find a spot that allows us to back it in and everything. So that's why it may be in not the best spots, but at least it's not in someone's yard or anything of that nature.
Gotcha. Do you come out with the statistics on what the data shows?
Yeah, it's a pretty nice piece of equipment. I think it's maybe 2.5 years old. It tells how many cars, every speed of each car. It puts it in a nice graph. So when we do get it onto 125 or Main Street, however you want to phrase it, by all means, it's public record. You can come in and I'll explain it to you. It's like I said, it tells a lot. So it's pretty nice.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I was just curious. It does seem like it would be hard to get that speed up there.
Well, we listen to everybody, and if they request it, we're going to try to fulfill that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ed, anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Ed. Anyone else? All right. I think that's all we have. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Debbie gave me $1 to say that.
Hey, what about me? I said it like 20 minutes ago.
That's
Could have held out for more.
Nick overruled you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Beckner, yes. Mr. Freeman
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for coming to the meeting.
See ya.
Take it easy.
All right.
Good night, Tom. Good night, Nick.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night. You pulled the Waltons out on that one.
We're on Walnut Mountain. Bye.
Night, Mary Ann, Mary Ellen.